Awesome. All right. So they came out with the new Xbox Series S. Finally got released, announced. Finally, after months of confirmation through everything else, including Microsoft's own stuff. Um, this is not really going to be a breakdown of Xbox. I'm going to do this once we get a little more information on PS5, and then I'll do an overall buying guide. But this is a buying guide for the holidays. Um, this is mostly going to be geared towards parents buying something for their kids, friends buying something for someone else, for someone you love. This is for if you're in the market for potentially getting a next gen gaming console, PC, whatever, of any form for your significant whatever. This is for you. This is kind of to make things a little easier, to give things a little more context of in the long run and how it would be. It's very easy to go and look at two consoles that are $200 price difference or $100 price difference and go, that's the better one. Or it's easier to go two consoles that have the same price. It goes, oh, that one has the games I want. That's easy. It's really easy to do that. Anybody can do that. I've kind of compiled a little bit of a list here of just the basics. This is only going to be for Xbox because everything got announced today, and I know that Series S is going to get tons of pre-orders, and that all access stuff is going to be a big thing. So I'm going to go through it. So the first part, the pricing of the Series S and the Series X. For anybody who doesn't know, especially if you're a parent, and this is just all over your heads, just I don't care, I just want get something for my kid. It's a game. There are two Xboxes, as if you're looking for Xbox. Now, as a quick little side note here, if your kid has a PS4 or a Nintendo Switch or an Xbox One or any variant of them already, they do not have to stick into that architecture. Like I wouldn't say that because your kid has a PS4, you shouldn't be getting the Xbox if that's what they want, or that you shouldn't be getting them the PS5 if they have an Xbox One if that's what they want. The thing is a lot of these, and I do this all the time with consoles. I trade in my consoles and my games, and it's a big portion of how I can get the next gen console, usually within the first year, not have to wait 2 years, get something pre owned, 3 years, whatever. Normally, that's it. I usually trade everything in. That's not really too much of an option this year. I'm going to go through that. That's the main portion of looking at this 3 to 6 months out. Any of these Xboxes can be a good option, but we're going to go through everything. So there's two Xboxes. There's the smaller one, the Series S, for $299, and there's the bigger one for $499. So I'll go through the Series S. The Series S has 512 gigabytes of storage. It's storage, for people who don't know, is how much uh, space is on the Xbox to hold games, system hardware, updates. If you download movies and things like that, applications like Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, YouTube. This stuff here, these three lines are what they're promising for the gaming. I put a question mark next to this, and I put a question mark next to this for Xbox Series X as well, because they're making claims that don't make sense. Really don't make sense. They're very, very broad terms. Anybody who's also looking to get, maybe a new graphics card for someone for a gaming PC, NVIDIA just released new graphics cards. Big graphics card company. They gave very, very raw, very base details. Nothing concrete. There's no benchmarks. There's no testing. There's no nothing. It's just seriously like, oh, it does 120 frames 4K. That's a really wide spectrum, because I can tell you right now there's nothing going to be running 4K, 120 frames, ultra Flight Simulator. I would really, really doubt the 3090 could do ultra settings, 4K, 120 frames consistently at Flight Simulator. I'd be very shocked to say it wouldn't do 4K 60. Nah, it'd do 4K 60. 4K 120 at ultra consistently? I don't know. I've been seeing TI struggle to get 30 on high settings. 30, did I say 30 ATIs? 20 ATIs. So these promises of this is going to be 1440, this is going to be 2K gaming at up to 120 frames, possible 4K upscaling. This one's 4K game. There's a difference. The Xbox Series X is the biggest. Series S is cut down. It's all you really need to know. I don't have any other details to even give you. They haven't shown us gameplay. They haven't shown us benchmarks of anything. They haven't shown us a successful, like, hey, we're gonna run 15 minutes of a gameplay on this streaming from the Series X. From PlayStation, we've had that. We've seen Ratchet and Clank playing off of a PlayStation 5 twice, I think. I think in the initial release and then the latest PlayStation one that they had. I mean, this will probably go up Wednesday. PlayStation might have a conference or some sort of release on Wednesday. So before September 9th, they've shown Ratchet and Clank playing on a PlayStation 5 twice. I haven't seen anything playing off of this. So as far as they go, like, oh, it's got 12 teraflops. It's got ray tracing. Like, yeah, I can see it's got ray tracing. Yeah, I know it's got 12 teraflops. We've known that for months. Same thing with this one. I know it's going to have cut down. It's going to have 4 teraflops. About the compute performance of the Xbox One X. This is the big part right here. No disk drive versus disk drive. If your kid has an Xbox and they have mostly physical games, they are not going to be able to use those games on the Series S. So you're limited right there. So if you're someone that's got like all your games, most of your game library physical, I have like 17 discs. I have maybe like, other than the free PlayStation stuff, I have actual bought games like 6, maybe 7, and majority of those during quarantine. Because getting a disc those first couple months was harder. So I just got 1 or 2 games, and a majority of that is there on deals bought online during quarantine. So if your kid has a disc, or the person you're buying this for has a lot of games that are on disc, the Series S just isn't. It's not going to work with them. And you can't exchange them for a digital variant. You'd have to repurchase the game, which we'll get to. And then for the Xbox Series X, that has a disk drive. That'd be the only thing that would really drive people. Sorry. That would be the only thing I would say could really drive people to get the Series X, especially an Xbox fan. Like, the Series S is a good deal, and I really don't care about like the max performance of $200, but that disk drive's decent. Disk drive for $100 is probably what PlayStation's doing. A disk drive for $200 is a steep price. There has to be another reason you're getting that disk drive for more than $200. But they've kind of limited themselves. If they had a Series S that came out for $399, it just had a disk drive, I think that would solve that problem. There's a lot of people that I'm not a big digital person myself. The technology is not ready for it. Wi-Fi is not ready for it. Internet is, but not everybody has their Xbox or their PlayStation hooked up. I use mine through Wi-Fi most of the time. I only got one Ethernet cable. It's going to go to my PC. It's not going to go to the fucking PlayStation or Xbox. So with this, it's kind of hard to recommend one over the other. It's like if you don't do discs, then the Series S is out of. It's not something that applies to you. If this is too much money, and you don't really care about discs, then this is kind of out of the range, and this is the right one. So the thing is that these don't feel too. They don't complement each other. They feel two very specific. There are two very specific requirements to go into these. It's not like, oh, I'm an Xbox fan, so I'm going to get the Series S or the Series X. There's going to be some sort of like you're going to fall through the cracks at some point. So I want to talk about this, the extended storage option. I have videos talking about the extended storage, how to save it, how it's a horrible idea. Here's the thing you need to know when you're buying something for the person going forward is these storage options are a really big thing. Let me describe to you for my PlayStation. I have a PlayStation 4. It has 500 gigabytes. I upgraded it to a 1 terabyte SSD at some point. So it has 1 terabyte of storage, which is equivalent to the higher end Xbox here, but the original one was equivalent to the lower Xbox. Did that 500 gigabytes mean a lot? No, not at all, because I have an external SSD that's 4 terabytes that is filled without game files, without videos, without photos, all this other stuff that I just can't save because that 4 terabytes is only game storage. only game storage. So this 512 gigabytes, like I said, if you're the kind of person that trades your systems up, this is not going to work. That 512 gigabytes, that's not going to be a lot. To give you guys a perspective, let me open up my. Okay, here we go. So I'm just showing you what's on my PC, which is what you'd be having on your. Let's say I have it on my Xbox. So Crackdown 3. Crackdown 3 is a really small last gen or current generation game. It's 25 gigabytes. Let's go down to the Master Chief Collection from Halo. That's 77 gigabytes. Now, you do the math. That's 77 gigabytes. That is a below average for current gen like big games. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is like 120 gigs. Flight Simulator is like 150, 170. Warzone for Call of Duty is huge. Plus, all of these games like Minecraft, Fortnite, Apex Legends, they're going to have more and more and more and more updates that are just going to make them bigger. They're going to use more hardware. They're going to implement ray tracing in all of the Battle Royale type games. So this 77 gigabytes is more realistic than the Crackdown 3's 20 something. Let's even find another game. I think that's partial for No Man's Sky. Ori has like 9 to 14. This is a really small game. Jedi Fallen Order is a below average game. 51.7 gigabytes. This is perfect. So let's say your kid wants Star Wars Battlefront 2, Fallen Order, and Halo Master Chief Collection. That's the only things they're carrying over. They already have them digitally. You don't need to rebuy them. That's all they want to carry over. This is essentially 52 gigabytes. Plus, for Halo, is it 77.2? Yeah, like 129 we're at before we're adding a 120 gigabyte game. So we're at about 240 gigabytes off of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Halo Master Chief Collection, and Battlefront 2 with all of its updates. That's 3 games. And that's 240 gigabytes. Or not including if your kid takes any videos, any other apps that's downloaded, again, like Hulu, Netflix, YouTube even. System software updates, which slowly take up more and more and more space. Not to mention all of that, we're at 240 gigabytes just on the games alone. And the Series S is coming at 512. So what I'm telling you, less than 2 terabytes investment for next-gen hardware is small. I'm saying 1 terabyte is the bare minimum you're going to be getting away with. My PlayStation, when I get a PS5, it's only going to have PS5 games, and I'm only going to be putting on essentially 2 games. All I wanted to play on it. Kingdom Hearts 3, because I'm sick of the load times, and there's something else that I had. Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy Remake. Those are the only 2 games that are going on the PS5. The rest of the 600-ish gigabytes, 700-ish, that should be going somewhere, go towards all the PS5 games. How many games do I think that's going to fit? A few. Before I'm going to have to get more storage options. And you got to think about that. Because the thing is, here, Microsoft is going to be having an extended storage. For those of you who don't know, let me pull it up here. Let me pull it up so that you can see what it is. It's essentially, for anyone that is not new to video games, right here, this is what it is. It's essentially an SSD. Same thing you'd be using for your PC, PlayStation, whatever. And it goes in like a PS2 memory card to it. Now, I think this is a really, really bad option for a couple of reasons. You're having Seagate, who's another company, who gets to at any point pull the rug out and go, no, this isn't profitable. We don't want to do this anymore. We want a bigger cut. Any reason. There's not just Microsoft. There is another company dictating whether or not this is going to be successful. I think that is just a recipe for disaster for especially people who don't have money, who are just going to go, I'm going to get the Series S because it's the cheapest option and it'll be and cheapest comes to mind for your kid. It's not going to be. It's not at all going to be. That 1 terabyte storage option that they're going to have, they sell it for, let's say, 100. I have right now my PS4, 4 terabytes. That's current gen games. Let's say that they're not even increasing by the amounts that they are increasing. Let's say they stay the same. They stay at about 100 gigabytes ish, between 100 and 200 per game. That means that every one of these 1 terabyte is going to be fitting roughly 5 to 10 games, maybe 15 or 20, depending on if they're really small titles or really older games. But when it comes to new current gen games that will be coming out, between 5 to 10 games on a 1 terabyte, this 1 terabyte option that was here. How much are these? We have no idea. No idea. If they're $100, I would be shocked for 1 terabyte. If they're like 125 to 150, that's what I'm expecting. But if they be 100, I would actually be shocked. That would actually be the smartest decision they can make. Anything more than 100, I think, is a really bad. Because there's so much stuff that's up in the air that has nothing to do with the storage option itself. It has to do with if or at any point Seagate can fall through. Will they keep the Series X and the Series S's design for the next console generation in the next 2 to 3 years, which is what Microsoft's kind of planning on? Are people going to buy them? Is there going to be a demand for them where they're even going to be producing them in large quantities? Besides all of that, you'll be fitting about 5 to 10 new games on there. Now, is it worth paying $100 every time you've already bought your kid those 5 to 6 new games? But they're going to be $60 to $70, $70 for certain titles, $60 for most of them. So after 10 games, after paying $600 for 10 games, so you'll probably be buying them new, and they probably won't be at a discount that much. You'll have to spend another $100 just for your kid to play any more games. And that's not save files, that's not videos, that's not other applications, that's just games. And they still haven't told us this. So like these prices, this $499, this $299 is garbage. It means nothing. It means nothing, because if this is $100 and you have to buy this every 4 to 6 games because games are increasing by the amount they actually are, we're not saying stagnant, it's going to cost you more money. And now, so before I talk about All Access, which is, I'll reiterate really simply, it is a phone plan. It is a 2-year phone plan, which you've been doing forever from your cell phones, for your kids, your family, smartphones. That's all it is. I will go into the pricing, whether or not it's worth it, whatever, once we get to the All Access. But that's all the All Access is. Now, before I can explain what All Access is, I have to explain to you what it's going to be for, let's say, a 5-year commitment. Because if you're buying a console, you're really looking for like a 4 to 5 year commitment. That's really when they're going to be cycling through. Games aren't going to be generating at such a high frequency that you're going to need to get if you have a PC, you're not going to need the newest graphics card next year to play other games. You're not. You're just going to adjust settings. You're not going to need the newest. I didn't need to get a PS4 Pro. I have a base PS4. It doesn't run all the games incredibly. The PS4 Pro doesn't run them incredibly. It runs them better. I don't need to spend the extra money for that. That mid-gen hardware didn't mean anything to me. PS5 means something. And that's 5 years after I've had this. And why am I stopping my PS4? I've gone over to PC gaming, and it'll be PS5 only for exclusives. Now, why have I done that? For this right here. Mostly it's this Xbox Live Gold thing. So Xbox Live Gold is essentially the same as PlayStation Plus. Albeit they have different perks, but they're the same thing. You can pay a yearly price of $60, or you pay $10 a month, or any in between other 3-month, 6-month package they have, and you get the access to play online. Now, if you bought your kid a $500 Xbox Series X, you would think that all you have to do is buy Wi-Fi and it'd be good to play online. Well, you can't. Same thing with the PlayStation. Same thing with some Nintendo titles. Most are fine. They're not there yet. Nintendo will get there. Nintendo will catch up. I promise you. But Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo have this thing where you need to pay to play online. There was enough perks for PlayStation where I could justify doing it. The games I got were worth it. In the end, if I didn't do that and I just had a PC where I bought those games, would that have been more worthwhile in the end? and I only had a PlayStation 4 without the external storage and everything just for the exclusive games that I couldn't play anywhere else, yeah, it would have been better. Because in order to play those games, I also need to have the subscription. So even though I downloaded them and had it during the month I had it, I can't play them. That's the same as the the Xbox Game Pass. So yes, there were perks there, but in the long run, was the perks worth it? It would have been better if I had made the PC route. And that's something that I'm just gonna have to deal with. For this, $60 a year. We're planning this out for 5 years, guys, for your kids and everyone. It's $300 to just use online servers that you don't have to pay if you have a PC. So if you're looking to get your kid a PC and you're going, oh, that's a $500 up price, that's $500 up front, and people are recommending that I get around an $800 computer for my kid to start, that's kind of hard to justify. While if you're planning to have it for 5 years, that's $60 a month for the Xbox Live, add that up over 5 years. If you want to justify it, well, if it's going to last the same amount of time, they're negligible. They're equal, essentially. It's $500 plus $300 over the course of a few years, over 5 years, versus just $800, and you don't have to pay anything monthly or yearly to just use the online servers because you pay for Wi-Fi. That's why you pay for internet. The Xbox Game Pass. If you're buying it for consoles, it's $10 a month. As far as I know, there's no deals on it. There's like the first month is $1 and then it's $9. They might have one of those for the consoles. As far as I know, for yearly, unlike the Xbox Live Gold, there's no like yearly thing. You just have to pay $10 a month. So at the end of the year, it's $120. Now, if you were to pay that on PC, unfortunately, right now there's a current deal where if you're on PC, your first month is $1, and then the next subsequent months are $4.99. It's at a 50% discount right now. That to me seems really weird. If you really want to push people to buy your system, why are you discounting only the PC version? It doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, as somebody who's been researching and had my head up Microsoft and Sony's ass for this stuff, I kind of know, I can understand and piece together and speculate and theorize why. But to sell the hardware, it makes no sense. You would usually want the discount on the console one so that if you guys are coming there being like, what's the price of this going to be a year, 2 years in? Well, yearly for that Xbox Game Pass, it's going to be $120 a year. $60 a year for the Xbox Live Gold. And you add those up, it's $180. That's what equals to the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. It's at no discount. Now there's something else that they're included, the mobile and tablet stuff for games. I don't care. I don't give a shit. We're talking about the consoles. If I cared about that, then they should come out with a mobile phone and a tablet for gaming. I don't care about it. It's not even out yet. It's promised in September or October or whenever. It's not. I don't care. It doesn't have anything to do with this. So why does all of this matter? Well, for the Xbox All Access, this is where a lot of people are going to justify. Oh wow. This is where people are going to justify this. So for the Xbox Series, I should write this actually. So the cheaper one, the $25 a month, is for the Xbox Series S, and the $35 a month for the Xbox Series X. When you add that up, this comes with the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is the Xbox Game Pass and Live Gold, and whatever hardware you're getting. So in the long term, you're going to look at this and go like, well, the console's $300. They're essentially saying this $180 I'd have to spend every year I can get for $150 for 2 years, right? Yeah, essentially it. But what I'm saying is that the Xbox Live Gold and the Game Pass, is that really worth it? And are you going to justify doing that constantly? Well, you're not really you're not having it such a benefit. So, and I'll describe. So, yes, this looks like a deal. Hey, you buy the Xbox for $300, and then at the end of it, it's $300 for the next year. You're getting everything at a $30 a year discount. Now, since there's no difference between the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for Xbox Series S and Series X, then why is this have a $240 difference when the consoles have a $200 difference? It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. They should have figured the math out. Even if this was like $33.78 a fucking month, they should have figured it out like a phone. That extra $40 means something because all of a sudden you're not really getting it at a discount. You're getting it at $500 for the console, and then you're getting it for $240 for 2 years of that. Sorry, $340. $340 because it's $500 console. I read that as $740. So for the 2 years that you'd be spending under the same access pass for the Series X, the 2 extra years besides the console of Game Pass and Xbox Live Gold would be $300. But for the Series X, it's $340. Why? I don't know. I don't know because Microsoft just kind of doesn't really know what they're doing. They're kind of getting their foot in the door with this subscription bullshit. But so whatever. So you're probably sitting here, your mind is fried like Evan. Oh, that's my name, if you don't know. You're sitting here like, Evan, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, it looks like it's at a deal because when I add the Xbox Live Gold and the Game Pass to that Series S, that all access stuff makes sense. It does. It's just like a phone plan. If you can justify it, it makes sense. Is that a smarter decision than a gaming PC? No, it's not. So let's say instead of the Series X, you build a $500 gaming PC for your kid, loved one, whatever. Let's say you get them a $600 gaming PC and you spend $200 on a decent monitor, some keyboard and mouse. Which if you're getting the Series X, you'd be getting a bigger TV anyway, which you should be justifying. Really, it shouldn't be like, oh, I'd get the TV and the whole family would use it, so I can justify it more. It's not really a gift for the Xbox. It is a gift for the Xbox. So the monitor and the TV and the peripherals there, like keyboard and mouse, will be equivalent. So if we're talking system to system, essentially, an $800 gaming PC versus a $500 Xbox Series X is a smarter investment. Why? Let's take out the Xbox Live Gold for both of them. And let's say that there is no deal for PCs for the Game Pass. So it's going to be the same $10 a month, $120 a year. You're going to be spending the same amount. What's the difference? It's the storage. It's a really, really, really big thing. Now, if you have an $800 gaming PC and you put, so you have an $800 gaming PC. And you have a $100 1 terabyte SSD in there. Now, is that 100 terabyte SSD going to be as fast as this? No, it would be like $120, $130 one be as fast as this. Getting closer, but is that going to be a big thing for just gaming? Yeah, you'd see the load times. Overall, I don't think it's worth it. Especially because you don't know the price and how successful in the future of this extended storage BS is going to be. You don't know that. That's where they're going to get you. The subscription stuff, they're going to make bank on. The hardware, they should be selling cheaper because they should be just taking a loss because they're going to only subscriptions are really only where they're going to be making their money, but they're not. And now they have this phone type of payment plan. Fine. All of that can work together if your storage options are clear, easy, and affordable. There's nothing clear about it. We have no data besides the picture I showed you and some there's some basics. It's PCIe Gen 4. It's some stuff. But as like a parent who doesn't know what they're already doing, there's no information you have. It's going to be more beneficial for you. What's the price? No idea. I can't tell you. These 1 terabytes could be $100. They could be $150. So they could be anything in between. They could go on sale for less than $100. They could start at more than $150 and then find their way less than that on a sale. But I've already described to you that a terabyte is going to be 5 to 10 games next gen. Whether they're small titles or big ones. Next gen is going to be, and you're going to need an SSD. Now, if that's $100, How much is it for $100 for a terabyte in a computer? How much is it for 1 terabyte in a computer? About 100. It's not PCI Gen 4, which is going to be slower. If you want to get the faster one, it's going to be probably closer to 200. But why would I say that's a better deal? They resell they have the price that they have is the price that they are the actual price they are. That sounds so confusing. Let me say this. These could come out, say they come out for 150, and say they don't sell well, and they get marked down to 130. Now, if 130 is their permanent price a couple months after release, then that thing you bought for 150 is really, because it's open and used, 120, 110, 100, depending on the 100 to 120 range. So it's lost almost a third, anywhere from like 20% to a third of its value in a few months. It could not as well. Now, if it's $150, it's more expensive. So it doesn't, and the other thing is it doesn't have another usage. You can't take the SSD out of here. You can't take the storage specifically and use it for anything else. You can't. It's proprietary, can only be plugged into the Xbox. If this fails, again, if Seagate pulls out, if they change something with the next Xbox, all of these factors in the air, that some of it we can get information of, some of it is just, Microsoft decided to add another company to make everything else messy. So who knows where it's going to be? So that $150 is most definitely not going to hold its value. And if it holds its value because they're just being sticklers, it's not going to be at a discount or a good price for consumers. And SSDs are going to go down. So if, say, you're buying a computer for your kid, right, gaming computer, it's something around $800, you could spend $100 on a 1 terabyte SSD. Then like $50 on a 2 terabyte hard drive. And the hard drive is anything that's like Microsoft Word, Excel spreadsheets, anything they're going to be doing for schooling. If they want to record a video, leave it on the hard drive for now. Get an SSD later on. And then get rid of the hard drive when eventually that thing's going to be just done. There are options. Also, that $800 computer gives you more than a $500 gaming console. It only games. So if you don't keep buying into the $60 a year to use online, $120 a year to get all of their games as a subscription service, $60 to $70 brand new for games when you buy them, how much for controllers? How much for other peripherals? How much when they get the new Xbox and your kid, because Keeping Up with the Joneses is going to ask for that? All of these things are just for gaming. If you buy an $800 PC, your kid has the options to then do what they want with that as a PC. Everybody's going, oh, $800 is a lot for a PC. Buy them an $800 laptop. There's plenty of $600 to $800 laptops that are not just good budget entry mid-range level laptops. They are good entry-level gaming machines. It's a better option. And this whole this debacle, this mess of just question marks because some things just aren't tested, question marks because they don't want to come out and say definitively this is what we have, this is what we're giving, question marks because I don't think they really know what the hell the future of the storage option is going to be. All these question marks mean it's not going to be cheaper. So when you're looking, especially with everything that's happened, everything that's going on, the recovery that people are going to be having to do, the Xbox is going to be you're going to be on a life support, where instead of giving you life support, it's going to be sucking money out of you constantly. And the minute that you jack out of that, the Xbox loses so much value because you can't play online anymore. That's $60 a year. You can't do this. You can't do that. Once you buy the PC, do you have internet? It's going to work. Did you buy a game? Did you buy a game 5 years ago when you used to have a PC? It's still going to work on your PC. It's not this whole, oh, well, I bought the disc and it doesn't work. Or, oh, I bought the PS3 game and it doesn't work for the PS4 or PS5 game. Or I have the Nintendo, but now they changed to cartridges and it doesn't accept their old cartridges or their discs, so it's completely new and I'm going to have to rebuy all their games. It's none of that. It's cheaper. That's different. PC gaming is different. I'll say that. But and here's another thing with parents. If you want your kid to get into something productive with gaming, getting them a gaming console versus getting a gaming PC is dooming them more to fail. Like if the thought is, and if your kid's really good at video games too, you know, if they're really good and like esports and competitive or streaming, content creation, any of that, but just primarily esports and competitive, that's their future. Then don't get the console. It makes no sense. Like Ninja, you think Ninja or PewDiePie? Does PewDiePie stream on his PlayStation 4 or his Xbox as his main thing? No, he does it when games come out and play. But is that his main one? I doubt it. Could he do with the streaming service and the setup that he has, or that other? I think he's Swedish streamer XQC something. Does he use only a PS4 and Xbox? No, he has two gaming PCs to stream because one of them is to play, one of them is to just stream. If you're doing esports, you need max frame rates. And a lot of these ones that are mostly shooters for the esports, a mouse and keyboard is it's significantly better than a controller. So if you're getting a 144 hertz monitor and a decent gaming PC, like that's all they're going to need. 1080p at 140 plus hertz, really 200 plus hertz, 200 plus frames is really where esports are at. They're not at like you don't go to an esports competition and there's just like Xboxes all, the Xbox Series X is all going to be plugged in for everyone to use. They're not going to do that. It's going to be done on gaming PCs. If they want to get into content creation, video editing, game creation, they're going to need programs. They can't do any of this on a goddamn Xbox or a PlayStation only. I don't even know. I know on PlayStation they're talking about, the PS5, they're talking about having some sort of like create function for like content creation. There's supposed to be some integration. I don't know the details. From what I've put together, there should be something where you can record, edit, and upload your videos straight from the PS5 so you don't have to record and edit on there, put it on your PC, and then upload it on your PC. There should be some variant of that. Xbox, it looks like they're just having record videos and record your gameplay and take screenshots. So even though PS5 looks like it's going to have a heads up there, neither of them have heads up on if you want to do content creation, you still need that. You want to get into video editing, into web design, graphic design, something like that, you need a fucking computer. I hate to break it to you, it's really just gaming. And if gaming is so important to them, it's going to be a long-term better investment to have this. Because let's say you buy them the $500 gaming computer. And a year down the road, you go, okay, I'm ready to spend that extra $300 that I would spend for the Xbox Live Gold. $300 for just a graphics card. If you buy a gaming PC, that's just decent for gaming. And it's just mostly a PC, but it's decent for gaming. It's going to play a lot of older stuff, maybe 2018, 2017. A lot of other stuff, maybe at like lower settings and on HD at 1080p. But then if you then save that $300, which you would spend just to play online, just to have the privilege to play online, if you'd spend that $300 on a graphics card in the future from now, $300 is going to get you a graphics card that's going to play more than what my PC does right now. It's going to give you more than what that Series S is going to be doing. If you're getting a 2080 Super or a 2080 Ti at a really good discount, or if there's, depending on the market, because we don't have all of the markets not out yet. AMD hasn't have their graphics cards, so we don't even know fully where the market's going to be going. We just know the market's really coming down financially for gaming PCs. What if they come out with some really cheap stuff? What if there's a refresh next year that's even cheaper? Well, then what was the point of getting the Xbox? Because you can't just get the Xbox Series S and then pay $200 next year to upgrade. Maybe if you have the all access, I don't know what they're doing there with any type of like switching in your consoles and stuff. They might have something through that, but you can't open up your Xbox and put new hardware in. You can with the PC. Is the next Xbox, the Series X2, gonna play everything from the Series X and Series S and Xbox One and 360 and so on and so forth? Possibly, probably because of the way they're going. Possibly. Will the PS6 play all the stuff that PS5, PS4, PS3, PS2, PS1? Probably not. Maybe with some things, we don't know. But will the gaming PC you have in 10 years be playing Grand Theft Auto 5 that you bought a couple of years ago? Yeah. The Grand Theft Auto 5 you got on sale for like 10, 20 bucks. When you have in 5 years that budget graphics card that makes you as able to play 4K, 60 frames, ultimate ray tracing, look at the lighting, the water is amazing. You don't have to pay for that game again. You do with some of these. So parents, people who are seeing this $299 price point and are going to, because there's going to come something out with Sony soon. There's going to come out stuff for the AMD graphics cards next upcoming weeks. There's no way that September is going to go and we're not going to hear anything official from AMD about it. That $299 is a placeholder. It is an entry that is going to cost you more and more and more and more. Versus a gaming PC, it's kind of going to be like the more you want to spend or the smarter you want to spend to future-proof means that like next year, that how much money you're going to have to upgrade your computer next year is not going to be what you initially pay. It's going to go down and down and down. I can't say the same for these. Just on the Xbox Live Gold alone, I can't recommend it for any parent that really wants to save money and have the best thing. I can't recommend that for you guys. So if there's anything you've learned from my rambling and ranting, I can't recommend this to you. It's not a cheap option. A cheap option is a $500 to $700 gaming laptop. A cheap option is a $500 to $700 gaming PC. And then they don't want to get into gaming. They have a PC. That's my 2 cents. I think it's a waste of money, especially the whole digital thing. I'm so anti-digital, especially with consoles. They're not ready yet to have that. PC, we're going up in the air. Discs haven't really been a big thing for a long time. So there's my 2 cents. As soon as PlayStation has their prices and their list of SSDs that are capable with their system and everything, as soon as that comes out, I'll have something for that. But as far as the holiday season, don't get an Xbox for the cheap option. If you get the Xbox, you have to know it's going to cost you a lot of money in the end. Oh, and anybody here, as a disclaimer, anybody who's thinking of getting a Switch for their kid the holiday season, do not buy a Switch. There's going to be a new Switch next year. It's going to make this Switch obsolete entirely. The current Switch is like $50 to $100 of actual hardware. It's so ridiculous. It's vastly overpriced. I'm selling mine because I don't need it. It's still worth a lot of money. And I'm keeping the games and the memory card, but I'm getting rid of the system because it's not worth it. So if anybody was wondering, like, he's only talked about Xbox and PlayStation and PCs, don't get the Switch. Don't. It's a waste of fucking money for right now.